Question number 2, Paul Goldsmith.
My question is to the Minister of Finance. What is the government doing to encourage economic growth and raise New Zealanders' standard of living?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, the government has taken a number of very important steps to support sustainable economic growth based on more savings and exports, rather than unsustainable growth based on consumption, debt and property speculation. Some of those steps include rebalancing a tax system with higher taxes on consumption and property speculation and reducing taxes on work and savings, improving education standards and skills, increasing investment in science and innovation, better incentives to get more New Zealanders off welfare and into work, a multi-billion-dollar investment in infrastructure, delivering better public services, reducing government costs on business, and last but by no means least, Mr. Speaker, getting the government's own finances in order by setting a path back to surplus which provides a stable macroeconomic environment to assist competitive businesses have confidence to invest and grow.
Very good. Very good.
Paul Goldsmith.
Mr. Speaker. Are we seeing positive signs of growth?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, well, in the midst of a very deep global downturn, we expect volatility and low growth as we are seeing around the world economies. So against that backdrop, I was pleased last week, for example, to see the latest monthly overseas merchandise trade figures showing that in July the value of exported goods rose by 8% to $4 billion to help the country record a July trade surplus. Exports to China rose by 39%, led by whole milk powder. Merchandise imports were up 11% over July last year. These are the kinds of figures which help indicate that volatility month to month notwithstanding, the country is on course to growing a stronger economy. And of course this follows the March GDP figures, which the opposition doesn't want to know about, which showed 1.1% growth for the quarter.
Order. Tendency for questions, questions shouldn't be an opportunity to make many speeches. The minister's tending to go on a little long. I'm sure he'll claim he's got lots to talk about, but despite that, this is question time. Paul Goldsmith.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, how does economic growth help reduce poverty?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, poverty is reduced in households where adults are in paid work. More than half of the children considered to be living in poverty are in benefit-dependent households, and that's why the government is very focused on economic growth. Growth gives people the confidence to start businesses and grow their businesses, to hire more people and to pay higher wages. And that matters because although issues around persistent poverty are complex and interrelated, what is very clear is that paid employment is the most significant factor in lifting a household out of poverty.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that paid employment is so important for reducing poverty, why is it that 40% of those people in paid employment are in poverty, and will he agree to lift the minimum wage?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member may not know, but it's very difficult, in fact impossible, for governments to legislate their way to prosperity. The only way that you grow wages and actually secure opportunities for more jobs is to give businesses the confidence to invest and grow and actually add jobs themselves. And that's actually by making some decisions which gives businesses opportunities in New Zealand. So, for example, areas like intensification of agriculture, oil and gas exploration, dare I say it, convention centres, all those things assist in providing the opportunities to grow incomes.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Given his admitted concern that primary sector exports growth has been adversely affected by the highly inflated value of the New Zealand dollar, how will the business growth agenda, his third economic strategy in 4 years, address this problem? The
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would argue that the government's economic approach is addressing the problem, because what we've seen, notwithstanding, as the member has pointed out, pretty high rates against the US dollar in recent times, we've seen very significant growth in exports over the last 4 years. I think from memory it's about 5.5% goods exports, 4.5% in total, notwithstanding some of the challenges where areas like the tourism industry has been hit hard by things such as...
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Speaker, I'm asking the Minister to tell me how his government's plans intend to address the volatility or the inflated value of the New Zealand dollar, which they have admitted. I'm not asking about all the rest. How do his plans intend to fix up the volatility of that dollar is the direct question.
I think the member's point is fair enough. That is what the question asked, and I think the Minister was not really focusing sufficiently on that aspect. The Minister started by saying he believes the government's policies are addressing that issue and went on to talk about exports rather than actually the value of the New Zealand dollar. The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Yes, the point I was making was that actually exports were growing, notwithstanding the volatility and highness of the New Zealand dollar. But my point to the member would be there isn't actually in fact, there are no effective means by which governments can do that. There are many people that promote options by which they can do that, but for a small and open economy like New Zealand, doing the sorts of things which are advocated by the member and other members of the opposition would actually be effectively a one-way bet against world markets which are much, much faster than New Zealand. And I would suggest a much more productive approach is looking to improve the environment so that competitive businesses that can compete and succeed in the world environment that we have today.
Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, what programs are the government undertaking specifically to support the least well-off New Zealanders?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, the government has worked very hard to maintain support to the most vulnerable New Zealanders during the global financial crisis and, of course, the economic impacts of the Christchurch earthquakes, which are substantial as well. We have maintained indexes of benefits to CPI to maintain their real value even through the recession. Similarly, entitlements to working for families have been maintained broadly through the recession. We have also strived to improve the quality of publicly funded health services that can assist vulnerable New Zealanders. For example, with initiatives like free after-hours GP care for under sixes, the increased participation in ECE, increased immunisation rates and reducing the incidence of rheumatic fever, and making a major drive to improve house insulation. So all of those things, Mr Speaker, are supporting the least well-off New Zealanders.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
How can he be confident that the government will meet its export growth targets, given that his latest economic strategy, the third announcement in the last 4 years, contains no plan for increasing the value of primary sector exports and no plan to address major skills shortages?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, I think the member has misread the document. No, he hasn't read it because, well, that's because it's one of 6 documents, and one of the things that's addressed in the future ones is primary resources and skills. And if he'd even read the first page, he would know that, Mr Speaker. But fundamentally, if you want to see further exports in the primary sector, which is certainly the government is very focused on, we need to achieve some things, such as the modification of the resource management framework to speed up decision making, and I look forward to the member's support on that. And also we need further capital investment in our primary sector industries, and that comes from domestic capital investment and also international capital investment, and I look forward to seeing the member's support of international capital investment into the New Zealand economy.
Question number 3, the Honourable David Cunliffe.